Simon Dunne. Hugh History couldn't actually be with us today. He's abroad in New York with some business meetings. Just to introduce myself, I'm technical sales with Partel. We specialise in LUNOS ventilation systems since 2011. They're newer on the Irish market, but they've been established in 1946. I'll just move on there. They employ over 80 employees in the actual LUNOS company itself. They've opened sales in 2015 by 24 million of last year. They have 20,000 installers worldwide. Just moving on then. They then provide to 30 countries all over the world. They have 70% of the market share in Germany in decentralized MVHR systems. Just of last year, they sold 24 million, as I've just said, in sales, but see this increasing over the next coming years, not due to the economic downturn, but more so more exports and better building conditions. They first started off with a DCV system, which is a band controlled ventilation system, which is an ALDR system. I can just show you it here. This is the heat recovery system, but the demand control will be Silvento, which will be in the extractor fan, which will be in the wet areas. This will be operating constantly throughout the year, using between 6 and 7 watts of electricity. It's probably one of the most efficient fans on the market. It can do up to a pressure difference of 300 PA. That means it can do actually from a ground floor, if you have a block of apartments, up to 12 stories, retaining at a constant pressure while retaining a good extract rate. Just moving on to the MVHR system. We have two units here, which is an E2 and an E-Go. You have E2 in your living areas, which is worked by having these two units. We'll say if it's a bedroom, a hall, and another bedroom, one does an extract, one does an intake, and then heats up this ceramic core element from an extract, and then reverses after 70 seconds and does an intake for 70 seconds. So the cold air passes through this ceramic core element and then dispatched in around the house. Just moving on then to the means of ventilation and why it's important. There's a case study carried out to over 5,000 apartments, and they found that in 21.9% of the houses there was visible mold growth in the structures. And then the reasons behind this was because of the poor ventilation, and this can have effects on asthmatic conditions. And just to go into more detail, why you need ventilation is from the building fabrics. So like you have EPS installations, the off-gassing of these materials can have dramatic effects on people's lungs, and down the line maybe have additional maybe cancer causing problems. And then just questioning, does natural ventilation solve the problem of mold growth and condensation? Overall answer is no. The reason behind this is if you have a west facing wall and you have a high level of wind pushing against that wall, on all that side of the house you might have adequate ventilation, but on the other side, maybe the east facing wall where you won't have any wind, there won't be any ventilation on that side of the house. Therefore you might get mold growth on that side, or even on the north facing wall where you won't get any sun as opposed to the south facing. It just shows here the trend in heat losses. The darker the colour, it just shows the less heat it loses. So you can see from the first one, just the wall vents, so that's just a hole in the wall, your 4-inch in all your bedrooms and bathrooms. So a lot of heat loss. Relative humidity high is in the bathroom, excess CO2, and then are measured at 4 air changes, 4 types of air changes. So you have 3, 5, 7.8 and 10, and then you can just see the trend as you move down, 3 air changes per hour, your heat recovery ventilation is most beneficial, has low heat loss, and has good indoor air quality. Just move on. LUNOS has come up with a program to design ventilation systems for houses and dwellings in both in commercial and domestic purposes. This can be free downloaded on both the LUNOS and Partel website for customer use and satisfaction also. So you can actually key in the meter squared of each room and calculate how much units you'll need to carry out a sufficient ventilation purpose for each house. Okay, so the first unit they came up with back in 1956 was an ALDR. So this is the first unit they came up with, which is an air supply passive air vent. So what it's made up of, it has 3 sound absorbers on the outside here. They do a sound difference up to 54 dB from inside to outside. So if you're close to the road and you're passing traffic, you'll have a sound difference of up to 54 dB. Yeah, the next module in here is a wind pressure relief valve. So if you have a high pressure wind, it'll blow up against this little rubber shutter here, and it won't close up completely, letting about a 5 ml air supply around the circumference of the wind pressure relief valve. It's kind of revolutionised the ventilation on demand control. As opposed to this, they'd only have a 4-inch hole in the wall. Just moving on there quickly, this is an E2, as I just touched on earlier. Just going over how it works again. There's an extract for 70 seconds, heats up the ceramic core element here, and then does an intake for 70 seconds. And all these units work in pairs. They're one of the most efficient fans on the market. They brought out new E2, which uses 0.3 watts per hour, which is the most efficient motor on the market. The efficiency of the unit itself is 90.6% efficient. The meaning behind that is if you have a 20 degrees inside and 0 degrees outside temperature, an incoming air will be between 18 and 19 degrees, which is very efficient. Move on then. This is called a LUNO term. Some architects don't like to have external grills all around the house, so you can build it into the window reveal and just have the external grill all along the window reveal, as opposed to having around 160 mm diameter grill on the outside of the wall. Just on the internal screeds, there's some additional sound absorbers that can be introduced into some of the units to provide better sound insulation, because some of the customers seem to have difficulty maybe as the fan actually rotates, it'll stop and go again. So depending on the location of the unit, some customers seem to find that it seems to be a bit annoying for them. This is just a TAC unit. So it's the touch-activated controller unit. It has a relative humidity base, and that can all be wired back to the central unit, which is the TAC. It can control the CO2 levels in the house, which will all be linked back to the actual ventilation system itself. Going on to the next unit, is the new award-winning unit that they're bringing out later this year, which is called a Next unit. And it goes up to, it's actually called a semi-decentralized ventilation unit, where you can actually semi-duct into the unit itself. Dimensions of it will be 350 by 300. And it's quite sleek on the wall. You'd actually retrofit it, countersink it into the wall itself, and you might have maybe 20 mil coming out from the wall. The actual ventilation in meters cubed that this would be able to cater for would be 100 up to 100 meters cubed per hour. So it could be very suitable for apartments or maybe semi-D. And that's just the internal cover. Though it's won an award-winning. That's an award-winning German prize. So it's a Plus X award, and it also won the IF Design Award 2016. Just moving on briefly then, another heat recovery unit which can be built into just the frame of the window for a floor to ceiling window. If they don't want to actually go through the wall itself, they can actually build it into the window frame. Depending on the window provider, they'd have to discuss this with Partel or LUNOS. That's just the external grills of those units. They're quite slim and not that noticeable. This is going back over the LUNOTherm. It's actually mostly used on external wall insulation. So if you have a renovation where you're doing external wall insulation and you have no means of ventilation and you don't want to see external grills, you can actually build this into window reveal, and you can actually see just him building it there in the build-up, but this will be the window, the actual grill itself, which is barely noticeable. Just moving on then to where it's been used. This is just an example of a block of apartments where they've gone through with a demand control ventilation in Slovenia, and they've also catered for passive house certified in Ireland and actually in the UK also. This was the first passive house, certified passive house in Germany that has been, the LUNOS system has been used on. It was the MVHR system that was used on this particular house. And then this is in Norway at minus 30 degrees temperature. So our units are actually temperature tested up to minus 50. It's just proven here that it's at minus 30 temperature degrees. And just lastly, this is our contact details. Partel's name of our company, and then it's just where we find that we're Galway based, and we provide to Ireland and to the UK. Just want to thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'd be pleased to answer.